Welcome back to Gridlock. Well, let's go to the Democratic side, Nathan, in the U.S. Senate primary. Jack Conway and Dan Mongiardo. We mentioned the poll from Public Policy Polling shows this race basically tied. Conway has the 37-33 lead, which is actually strong for Conway because his name ID is not as strong. And Mongiardo's run, I think, 5 times statewide in the last 5 years or something like that. Your dog in this fight appears to be Conway. How's this race going to play out?
Well, I think what you're going to see is, this is going to go all the way through. There was many people thought, well, will one of them drop out? No, this race is going to go all the way to the end.
Right.
And I expect this race will get pretty tough. But I think Jack Conway will win the day. And I think the reason probably why he'll win the day is that in Louisville, they're going to have a very hot mayor's race.
Yeah.
And there are many folks out there in the polling community that think that 40% of the vote in a Democrat primary may come out of Louisville, and which is very big because Jack's leading there at least 2-1, if not more.
And he's from Louisville.
And he's from Louisville, and and so that's hard to overcome when you go out into the rest of the state. I do think that Daniel Mongiardo's had a tough few weeks when he got into with the governor, him and his little tiff with the governor where he was talking on the tapes and stuff.
Right.
I think that hurt him a lot. I think his fundraising, he's never been a very good at fundraising, and so that has continued to hurt. I think again in the December 31st in the Kentucky Democrat Senate race will tell something too. If Daniel Mongiardo is able to keep up with Jack Conway, it's going to be a very tough race for both of them. If he starts lagging and he's only raises maybe 250 and Jack raises 350 or something, or it goes up higher than that, it gets very difficult for Daniel because if Jack is able to go on TV weeks ahead of time, it'll be hard for Daniel to.
And that will be, but I will say something about Mongiardo, that he was just last week was endorsed by the mayors in the 6 river cities up here, because for years he has come up and he'd do any event, that grassroots type of thing. You're right, he's not the world's greatest fundraiser, but he understands the grassroots. Who do the Democrats want to run against? Rand Paul or Trey Grayson?
I go back and forth because sometimes I want to run against Trey Grayson because I think he is a better candidate matchup for us.
Yeah.
But then at other times I think of Rand Paul. But what scares me about Rand Paul is he's got all these people that are $35 a head,
right?
And they'll just keep funding his campaign.
Yeah, it's the Obama method.
It's Obama,
right.
Exactly. I mean, he could be Obama there.
Yeah.
I mean, and basically, the Republicans are already filling in a primary.
Yeah.
I mean, if Rand Paul was not able to do this through the internet and stuff, he wouldn't be nowhere to be seen in this race.
Marcus, this is clearly a fight over the ideology of the party, the Republican Party. Not so much on the Democratic side. These guys are traditional Dems, both of them, for the most part. But Paul and Grayson are different. Is this a microcosm of what's going on across this country in the Republican Party right now?
I think it is. I actually think that we see it here, and I think the national press has picked up on that.
Yeah.
We talked during the break about the number of times that Rand Paul's appeared on the Glenn Beck program and on national news programs. These guys are getting a lot of attention, and it's being ratcheted up, not only by those that are within the Tea Party movement and within that faction of the Republican Party that are trying to push the party more back toward, as they see it, toward the conservative principles. But I think that what we've seen is, and I think we're going to get to it here in a minute when we talk about health care, this health care debate. I think America has finally started to see the way politics really works.
That's what Dan Williams, our sound guy who loves this, that's his point on this.
That's right.
Thing.
The deal making that's been going on this health care bill, I think people are looking at that. And Glenn Beck, and I'm not trying to hawk his show, but he has said the real problem in Washington, D.C. is what the people perceive as corruption, that people are elected to office to actually end up supporting their rich constituents, the people who have money in their districts, who put them there, who fund their campaigns, and the rest of the people in this country are bearing the cost of that, are starting to get very upset. So that has created kind of a stratosphere divide between what we might call the traditional establishment Republican candidates and the grassroots Republicans. And the grassroots Republicans are starting to get some energy behind them. So in that sense, to the extent that Trey Grayson's been identified with Mitch McConnell as the establishment Republican candidate, and that Rand Paul has been identified more as a grassroots, outside the Beltway kind of candidate, I think it is a little bit of a microcosm of what's going on at the national level between Jim DeMint and Senator Cornyn and Mitch McConnell and others, Jim Bopp at the RNC. All of these people are playing into a divide in the Republican Party. And to be quite frank with you, it's probably good for the party. It's probably good to start listening again to the people who are bringing the votes.
But
to the polling
Marcus,
places.
we all know. I think it's people are realizing when they watch this healthcare debate that they needed Nebraska's vote, so Mutual of Omaha got a tax exemption because they're in Nebraska. They needed Hawaii's vote, so Hawaii got something. They needed That goes on all the time. It's always gone on. It's always been transparent. Shame on the American people if they're just thinking, I'm shocked. Shocked, I say. I mean, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, which was made in 1939, was about this. I think that there's a little political expediency going on. A lot of these people banging this drum have been part of this process for a long time.
I think the Republicans are kind of having a moment with themselves.
Yeah.
Because I think that they have forever drank the Kool-Aid that was given out. And now suddenly they're waking up and saying, they've lived through 8 years of George Bush, and they didn't like that at the end.
No, he's not a conservative.
He's not a conservative, and they didn't like that. And then they thought they would look at their Senate leadership, Mitch McConnell, and they don't like that because they find he's all making deals all over D.C. I mean, the health care deal is about companies getting rich.
Yep.
And if you think that it's anything else on Washington, D.C., but as I was saying...
Now, you're saying that about Obama?
I'm saying Obama's even a little bit different. He took most of his money at $35. I think that's some of Obama's problem because the Senate and the House Democrats who pays their way, big contributors.
Well, his
but he agreed
approval, his approval rating right now is at an all-time low, 46% disapproval. He's about as popular as a turtle in a punch bowl.
Well,
did you say turtle?
Turtle in a punch bowl.
Okay. Here's where Barack Obama is going wrong right now. The American people worry about one thing right now. They're worrying about their wallets. Their wallets ain't full of cash. They get mad. That's the way we're fickle people.
And I will say this, I gave my speech about Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, but it is manifesting. There are people angered about this, the way Washington works, and that's real, and you're seeing that with the Rand Paul people. Take a break. I'm too cynical from being a reporter for 30 years. We're going to take a break. We're going to get back into this health care debate, as well as the president's approval ratings, and Frankfurt we haven't even touched on yet, with the Democrats taking a big punch in the noggin when that state Senate race a couple weeks ago. We'll be right back on Gridlock. Stay tuned.